Okay, well, it's a couple of days later. It's now the weekend. So I'm going to be trying to get as much done as I can today. Service, uh, check the brakes. I need to actually check the pad stock I have in my garage because I can't remember if I'm currently on the track pads or if I changed them to the road pads 3 years ago. I really can't remember. So all that to do and no time to do it. So let's get on with it, shall we? Well, just walking around the car and notice this. Really? The car is literally barely ever uncovered. I swear they must get the memo or something where they're like, oh, haven't seen that car in a while. Boom, let's hit it up. My favourite part of working on cars. Jacking them up. Well, I just thought I'd show you something on this car. Now, known for being very boaty, the Amiga, in standard form, I currently have just one axle stand holding this up. Let me show you. As you can see, just one axle stand. She's off the floor. So, for anyone who ever doubts these cars, this one is stiff. Okay, let me just run you through dropping the oil on an Amiga. Very simple. Let's ignore all of this corrosion because there's lots of it. So let's just move on from there. Very simple. Torque's there. And this car, right there, is the oil filter. That's probably not going to mean much. There we go. If I come back here, you can sort of see how that's routed. And in my opinion, the best kind of oil filter you can take off on a car. No messing around, breaking the oil filter, and because it's a filament, it's got its own case. And that's all it is. You'd think it would be bigger, but apparently that does the job. I've gone for Castrol Magnatech 1040 because I need the viscosity in the older engines. I feel like they like that. And anyway, it was literally the cheapest, best oil I could get. Right, moving on from that, the car has been running for about 20 minutes prior to this point. So the oil should be at about 10,000 degrees, which is really good for taking off many layers of skin when you take the sump plug off. Literally no room. I don't have a proper oil catcher, so I have to use a bucket. This car does hold, I mean, I'll be honest, this isn't the best. There we go. Burning. Let's get you in on that. Alright, it's pretty black. Just let that drain for a minute. Right, I want to show you how one of these works. If no one's ever had one of these flavors before, I do hope you can see this because it took me 3 hours to set my camera at an angle where you can actually see it. So in here is the filament oil filter in a case. It's simply 24mm spanner. Ow! Make sure to hit your hand on the exhaust when you do get it undone. Oh, for Pete's sake. I was supposed to make this easy. Well, just speak amongst yourselves for a second here. Malfunction. Right, okay, back to where I was. I just remember there being more room than this. Okay, so this is what it looks like with the cap off. And in there, I've taken the filament out already. And yeah, very simple. How they should be on every car. Clean up the cap. Take the old O-ring off. Okay, that's the cap cleaned out, as you can see. Nice and clean. I noticed when I was cleaning it out, the oil residue was really in there. Put the new O-ring on. Like so. You don't want to forget that. I've done it before. And believe you me, you know about it. And then just simply pop that on there. And that's it. Believe me when I tell you, I didn't do this for views. Oh, you know when you just want to cry? Yes. Well, I want to cry. Because literally just after I fitted the oil filter, as I was crawling out of the car, I don't know how, but I slammed my foot onto the edge of this oil tray and flipped it over, sending oil all over me in the car. And the inside of my shoe is full of old 1040. Brilliant. Right, well, after just spending 3 days cleaning up the scene that looked like it was some Midsummer Murders, it's finally now ready for the oil. Can I do that without messing it up? Please. That would be nice. There we go. That's it. Drink it up. You deserve it. Looking back, although this did probably only about 1,700, maybe at a push 2,000 miles to the oil that I just drained out, it did do 40 or 50 laps of the ring in the summer as well. It got beat on. So it's well deserved. It's cheap and the car's not going to mind it, is it? So from experience, I think this is supposed to take 7 litres of oil. But whenever I've measured it, it never seems to be full. Sometimes she drinks up 8. And I've done 50, 60,000 miles on this car. And I've never had an issue, but that's 7 litres. So we'll run with that for the moment. Cat back on. Let's start her up. Make sure she's out of gear, as that would be another catastrophe. She's the rear-wheel drive flavour. Here we go. Here we go again. Okay, I'm going to let the engine just warm up to temperature. And then we'll move to the back of the car. Oh no, wait. No, as the front ends up, I'll check the pads, see what pads are in there, see what life they've got on them, and just do a, cast the old retinas on everything, make sure it's all good. And man, I had to do a lower bottom change. I was completely covered in oil. Don't really want to be putting that all over the seats. Right, what are we saying? Okay, let's bring you on in. Well, apart from the obvious fire hazard situation we've got going on here, as you can see, this car does not have upgraded brakes, but they do work. And anyway, I just pump the brake through the firewall. Normally slows it down. Now, as I can see already, the color of these pads are blue, which is good. That's great news, as these are my track pads. Now, another thing with this car is pads are super difficult to get hold of, because these cars were never intended for track use. So pretty much the only pads from my experience I've been able to get for the OEM calipers are EBC pads, but the only colors they offer off the shelf for this car are yellows, which simply are not man enough. They're quite good for road use. I had tried them on the ring before, but you would just get terrible brake fade. Even though all the fluid has got RBF 660 in it, they just couldn't cope. So I called EBC themselves, and they made me to order blues, which have been awesome. So anyone who gives stick about EBC, personally, I don't think they're that bad at all. And I've had great experience. I've run the oranges, which I think are discontinued now. I've run them on the Megane, and I know they have a race black series, but I try and do things on a relative budget. Right, I'm going to take the caliper off, see what the life's saying. I can see this one looking good, but I just want to check that outer one. De-leaf and cobweb this thing. Check the coil, see what that's saying, and move on to the other side. There's something I love about this car, is how basic it is to work on. It's so simple, and there's so much room on this car. There's a lot of car. Now, this car is almost 5 meters long, 4.9 meters. She is a big girl. You don't realize that until you sort of park it next to a BMW 5 Series Touring, and it's literally like a foot longer than it. Right, pads, looking good, very good. Now let's get some of the cobwebs out of this. Round 2 of this bad boy. Die! Well, I'm going to inspect the coilover, and if anyone hasn't seen one of these are shock sleeves or socks. Now, I haven't actually opened this in 5 years since I fitted them. Wow. Back from the spider nest. I think something has been eating at it, either that or the wheel. Quite possibly. No, I think it's been chewed on a little bit. Get you up in there. Look at that. That is incredible. So for anyone who says these aren't worth it, they are absolutely fundamentally worth it. That's 5 years ago I fitted these coilovers, and they've done 10,000 miles at least in all kinds of weather and look. So definitely advise anyone to, if they purchase new coilovers, buy the socks for them. You won't regret it. Right, well, I finished up the other side off camera, and it's been a couple of hours because I hit a bit of a roadblock. I was going to bleed the brakes, and I've got a self-bleeder kit that I haven't used in 3 years. When I opened it up out of its bag, it was covered in water. I think it's condensation, so it had water in the system, and I can't do that. I can't use it because I can't afford to put water in the brake system, obviously. So I may have to go old school, but I need another person on the brakes whilst I crack the nipples and obviously bleed the calipers. So I'll put a pin on that. I'm going to call it a wrap for the evening now, and I'll come back tomorrow. Apparently it's due to rain all night, so I'm really excited about that because that'll be really cool to work in the morning. So yeah, see you in the morning. Oh, I've got so much to clear up.